Hello and welcome everyone for this tutorial on AEP, the Adobe Experience Platform API wrapper. This video, we will cover how to get started with the APP package and overall with Adobe Experience Platform APIs and with Python and so forth. So the first things we would like to explain is how the Adobe ecosystem works with the API. So on most of the videos you may have seen in the past, um, you could have seen that in the admin console is where a project manager have access to. You have access to products, and therefore you have access to all of the product that your organization is subscribed to. So in the case, all of those products, and you will see one which is called Adobe Experience Platform here. And in most setup, you will then create a product profile that gives you permissions to go through uh, to uh, your tool, in that case, Adobe Experience Platform. And this permission is then used later on with the project of the API. However, in Adobe Experience Platform, things are different. There is a whole explanation on this in the Get Started element that you can access in the GitHub, and creating a developer project and so forth is going to give you, and as well in the notebook here, Introduction to AEP will give you also access to the different information related to how to create the auth access and so forth. However, now we will start with this. So to get access through APIs, first you need obviously access to Adobe Experience Platform, and the best would be if you are a system admin or if you know system admin of your organization. If you see again in my organization, which is, sorry, I'm looking for it, product here, I am at the top. You're not seeing here, but you will see that I am a system admin, and this gives me extra right that allows you to create API access for the Experience Platform. Without this, as of today, as I'm recording this video, you cannot get access to Adobe Experience Platform. So you need to identify who can do that in your organization, and we'll explain that why in a minute. The first thing you need to get is to get access to Adobe Experience Platform and get some developer access elements. So normally IP default all user, and then you can also that is where you put all of the user here, and you can here get some developer access here in that case. Create all of them. Then once you have, make sure you have access to all to in this IP default all user access and get developer, you will be able to go to the developer.adobe.com console, and here is your organization. So in my EMEA Consulting again, and here you can see I'm a system admin, so I have more rights. If you are not a system admin, you may not see everything, but most important thing is that you can create a new project, and we'll do that together. For that, we'll need to create a new project. And you see that's project 11. And I'm going to edit the project name and call it demo project creation. And what is the project AEP API? What is this project about? You can add that in description, but this is giving you a technical account user access. And you can see it has been created today by myself, and there is no activity on it. And this technical account user will have access to certain things. And you can add that here in the API capability. You can see I can listen to some event native of Adobe Cloud Organization. I can also get plugging some Adobe IO runtime, which is all containerization in JavaScript. But what we want to do is use the API. And here, as you get developer access into Adobe Experience Platform, then you will have access. You can click here, And you can see I can select now Adobe Experience Platform here. You have only one capability. Before there were two, but now you have only the auth. And then the credential name is something I would recommend you to personalize, because this is something we will need to use in the future to give permission to that technical user in Adobe Experience Platform. So in my case, I would call it demo API access AEP. Let's put this name and I put next. And here I can select my product profile that I was showing before. And for the sake of it, I will just do in the AEP default all user access, which is the basic one that is accessible by everyone, and that's the one you can use. You're setting the API, I'm setting the API configuration, and now I have a technical account user that has some access to Experience Platform API. In normal world, that would be enough. However, in Adobe Experience Platform, that's not enough. So here you see client ID, the scope for the host access, the credential, technical account, and all of this information we will use later. But now what I want to do is going into Adobe Experience Platform, because here we need to go into the administration and to the permissions, as the permission have not been yet defined. And you can see all several things. You can see the roles that gives you access to several things. In AEP training, in our case, maybe we're gonna use that. You see I have access to all of them, and I have access to those two sandbox. So that will be enough for me. I can use this AEP training role that give me the access to all of the different elements to it. And then I can look at my user and provide them access to certain roles. That is the possibility. But if you are a system admin, then you have access to this API credential. And here you will see the credential name I used. So this one now, I can actually use this and add a role to this, and I will add the AEP training role that now is giving me access to AEP through APIs. Now all my setup is done and I'm ready to get access to AEP. I will also show you quickly that, of course, to use AEP, you will need to go get Python. So you go to the python.org. If it's important, you can give donate for Python because it's a free software. And then you can actually get the latest version of the stable version. So what I would recommend is to not use any pre-release or very early stage like 0.1, 0.2. Those are actually normally bug fixes of the new version, and I would not recommend you to use them. Better to use the 3.13, for example, 11. That would be a better version than the one before. If you are now watching this video and it's 3.14.10, it's good. It's good you can use that because they have new release of Python. Not every library are already on compatible with it, and as we have dependency, it's important that you wait some time before moving to a new version of Python. That's why actually most of the currently, as I'm recording that in 2025, end of 2025, beginning of 2026, most of the cloud implementation are using 3.10 or 3.9, so it's very stable version of Python. So you download this. Also, you will need to once you have downloaded and install Python, make sure you have access to it in your path system. So if you are in Windows, you need to make sure the Python installation is in your path, so you can then use it from the terminal. And also, then once you have installed it, you can install Jupyter because the whole technical tutorial that I'm going through are going to be using with Jupyter Lab. So we are going to use that in our case. What you can do actually once you have everything installed, then is to start your I just started the screen now, is to install everything as follow-up on the get started tutorials, which I'll go now. Here. But here, pip install aepp, and you can always upgrade it. Install. I can try to upgrade it. So installing already installing the new version. And I can also make sure I have installed the pip install upgrade Jupyter. For example, to make sure I have the latest version of Jupyter Lab, which I will not do now, but because it will take some time. But this is what you could do to install Jupyter Lab. Then, once you have installed both of them, all of dependencies are actually saved. You can directly go to your folder. So I will recommend you to create a folder for all of the trainings or all of the API calls you are doing on your machine. So you have a local folder where everything is going to be there. And I am going to now create a new terminal in here. So by this and Windows machine, I will click on push the tab button and then right click. And here you can see I can open in terminal. I am now in that folder. You see that I'm in my own folder and I can type Jupyter Lab. This will create an environment in your default browser interface. Here you can access your local folder and you will see there is nothing if your folder is empty, but I can start already a notebook, and this is what we're going to do all the time. We're going to open the Jupyter Lab notebook or create a new one based on this. So I'm going here to create my first one, and I'm going to import aepp access to, and by typing Shift Enter, it's automatically resolving everything. I have some additional things, so you can see it took 3 seconds to load because I'm recording everything and it's take a bit of time. But yeah, this element is how you can do and import app. The important thing is now we have our project and we know our project has been set up in AEP in the permission model directly. So now I would need to actually copy paste all of those information in order to log into the API because you need to have a client ID, client secret, the scope, and so forth. So there is a configuration file that can be used in IPP, and you can actually create that by doing IPP create and by typing uh, normally tab. Then you see it can autocomplete based on the library method available. You can see create config file, and here I can name the config file. It will be like IPP demo, for example. I executed that. It took less than a second, and now you see you have IPP demo.json is now available. The cool thing about this environment is you can also open it here. You see that this file has been created. And now I can actually see all of this directly. What I can also do is to open it directly in my VS Code editor. So I'm using Visual Studio Code for editing. Just take a bit of time because I'm recording and everything is a bit slower now. Like that. And here you will see it already has some pattern that I'm going to fill. So the org ID, the client ID, sandbox, the environment, sandbox name, and the scope. Important information is that the environment for anyone following this video when is not an active AEP developer, it's always going to be prod. Like if you are a client of Adobe Experience Platform, you are using the production environment. This is available for AEP developer. When they are using APP, they can actually test their things in the staging environment of AEP itself before live. But if you are a client, you do not need to change that. You can even remove it uh, by default, and it's automatically default to prod. The sandbox name will be your different environment. For us, we are going to use the prod sandbox by default. Then we can have a look into our project to copy the scope. Place it, the org ID, and so forth. I will do the following on myself, so you don't need to watch me do that. I have now loaded uh, prepared the configuration file. As you can see, it's been done 18 seconds ago, been saved. What I can do, actually, what I can do first, I would always tell you to do that, is to rename that. So it will be configuration demo. What you can do then is to try to import that configuration and load app and do the first API connection. So what you can do, we are for this is to actually use app import config file. You can start to do a AP, for example, here, and then tab, it will autocomplete. And here there are several options available. One of them is sandbox option, so I can reinforce it's going to use prod, but I could overwrite the default configuration sandbox in my configuration file here if I wanted to use another sandbox for this. And the important part here is connect instance parameters equals true. And I explained that in the first video of this tutorial. And this allow me to actually save this configuration for this sandbox in a variable. If I were to have another sandbox, and we have seen that I have an AEP training sandbox, I could now use that in training variable, and then this will save two different configuration, and we will see how we can use that in two different sandboxes. So I'm going to do that and save them. So see that I have saved all of them. And two, you can actually look at what they are. You see that it's a connect object and it's actually to a sandbox. It doesn't have a token yet. Here is your client ID and here is your organization you're going to use. And from there, I'm going to do from app import schema, which will be the first tutorial following this one. And in schema, as I explained in one of my videos, I have a schema class, and that I can say prod schema is going to be schema with a capital. And here, by doing, I open the parentheses and do a shift tab. and you can see all of the possible parameters and some explanation of what is possible to do. The important one is the config, and here you can say config, I want to use the prod, and this will make sure that the schema class is going to be created connection to a API in Adobe Experience Platform with the prod sandbox. So now I can actually ensure that it's connected to the right sandbox by having the dot sandbox. And here I can verify it's in the prod sandbox. And if I were to use the other training one, training schema, now I can do schema config dot training equals training. And here this training schema instance as for sandbox the AEP training sandbox. So this now is a capability of actually the AEP instance. In here, you can also get the header, and you can see a token has been generated, and we are connected to the schema. This is not the tutorial today of schema, so I will stop here, but we can start to see how the pattern will be used. I will do more video and explanation about all of this in my next video on the schema. Some, in case you are not familiar with the notebook interface, so this is the notebook, and you can see here the number, the method or the execution I've done based on the number. So I did first this one, then after this one, then after this one, then this one, and you can actually, the very cool thing about notebook is that you can rerun this. So now I rerun it, and you see it. Yeah, just now it's the 11th because it's the last one I have done. 10th was this one. And you can rerun then after. If you do an error, you can retry by modifying something, of course, and then retry something. That's very cool. And you can then save, and you can reopen tomorrow. I can reopen the same thing and execute the thing in the same order, and it will do the same thing. Important thing, if you go inside, you can of course write Python code. If you type escaped and you see now the cell is highlighted, then you can actually type B to create cell below, A to create cell above, double D to actually delete it. So sometimes you will see things getting deleted or added or something. This is because I'm using not the interface to. You can also do that here. You see, insert a new cells and so forth, and you can also execute the cell here. But I'm using the command, the keyboard, and not the UI interface to do that. Also important is that you can change the type when you are selected like this, and if you type M, it's going to be a markdown. So here you can have a chapter, and I will use that later. A lot of the time I'm calling this one either top or setup, and then after, when I'm going into something, I'm calling it, for example, schema. And the cool thing about it is when your notebook gets very long, you can go into the chapter list here on the left and start to see and go directly to the different elements that you want to go directly. And it changed automatically. So that was a very short thing. An additional information is that you have always a help function that can give you all the information related to a method. So for example, let's take the method I was showing you about import create config file. I show you by doing Shift Tab that inside the parentheses, let's do it again, Shift Tab, and then it shows you all the signature and the docstring. Everything is documented. You can also use the help function on it, and it's giving you the same thing. And it always give you like you have actually inline documentation inside APP to help you understand what's going on. Sometimes it's not enough, and you will need to go through this part here to really understand everything. This exact yeah, is documented in the main because this is the main part of IPP. So they are directly accessible. Those accessible methods are directly from IPP. So create config file is from IPP directly. You have import config file. You have other elements that you can directly from the IPP interface. And that's all of it. We'll cover most of them later. But that, I think, is the main part I wanted to introduce you to via APP, Jupyter Lab, and how to connect to Adobe Experience Platform API project directly. I hope that was helpful. It was quite full of information. And yeah, talk to you in the next video.